Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It's Chris, Milton, and Ben here for Outer Rim Transmission. It's episode 201. It's crazy that we're still we're over 200 now. We're just in the thick of it with this podcast, and we are talking tonight about Ahsoka. We're catching up on Star Wars Celebration 2025 news from Japan. So far, we've talked about Star Wars Starfighter on 2 episodes ago. Last week, we talked about the Maul Shadow Lord animated series that is announced. So this week we're going to take the episode's time to talk about all the little details we learned from the Ahsoka 2 panel. So that'll be fun to get into. But yeah, how's it going, Ben?
Good. Just enjoying this heat wave. Every day is close to 100, so that's been fun. And trying to stay cool through that. And just been working out lately and just enjoying the official start to summer and stuff, but that's been a good week.
Yeah. My official start of the summer was actually at a carnival last night, so it was kind of crazy because I haven't been to one of those in probably over a decade. So we're waiting in line. I'm like, wait, is today the first day of summer? Oh crap! It is the first day of summer. We're at a carnival, so it was really nice and warm. Nice night. Had some good food and went on some killer rides. Like, these things really threw you around quite a bit. Some good thrills. That is how I started my summer. But how's your summer going so far, Milton, in the first official day that we've had?
Hot. Obviously, we have a heat wave, throughout the whole country. As you can see, I'm wearing a tank top, a little sweaty. Actually, I went bike riding before I came back to do the podcast today, and it was a great bike ride. I love the wind, on me, but it was hot. And it's been sucking down ice cold water for the past hour just because I'm trying to get my house together and preparing to get married next Saturday. And listen, if it's this hot next Saturday, we might as well just cancel the whole damn thing. Just kidding. I'm gonna still go through with it. But yeah, man, I'm here. I'm happy, ready to talk some Star Wars. Just this heat. No joke. I
know what you mean. I was out skating earlier about 2 hours ago, and I was like, if it's 1 degree hotter than it is now, I'm not doing this. This is my limit right now. But yeah, it's like, what's the alternative, right? Because I've seen people have wedding pictures and stuff, and they're like, the brides, I feel bad for them because I don't know why you'd have one, but they're having weddings in January and February or something, and they're outside in these places, and it's like, dude, it's 20 degrees. Outside with these pictures.
Well, here's the thing, my brother got married on New Year's Eve, and but it was an inside wedding, which was perfect. I think they made it. We did pictures outside, and we were up in Vermont, but it wasn't that bad because winters can be weird. We were up in the northeast, and I was surprised that it wasn't that cold that day, but it was still chilly enough to where I'm like, okay, let's wrap this up pretty fast.
Yeah, so you go from one extreme to the other in your family with these weddings. So hopefully it's not as bad as it is right now. Hopefully.
I'm hopeful next Saturday will be. I'm hopeful next Saturday will be warm, not hot. That's my whole, premonition. Or
no rain and no hurricanes and any kind of crazy natural disasters.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the thing, right? You plan for something for 2 years or whatever it is in advance, and you got no control of the weather that far in advance. You have no idea. You can only hope and pray. Oh man.
Right, I agree.
All right, so getting into the show proper, we have a couple Star Wars releases this week, some big ones actually. We have the first big one was in Star Wars comics. We have a new run of the Aphra series. This is Dr. Aphra, Chaos Agent number 1. This starts us off with Dr. Aphra post Battle of Jakku. So it's pretty cool to see her in that new timeline. Maybe we'll see her in the Mandoverse someday as we're inching closer and closer with the canonical comic timeline there. Big one here is the final book of the High Republic, ladies and gentlemen, is out now. I actually have my review on YouTube. It was one of the fastest Star Wars books I've ever read. Not just because I made myself read the thing like a maniac, just because the pacing was so good that I actually want to put the book down anyway. So you can see what I gave the book in my review and what I have to say about it on the channel. And Last but not least, I did not pick this one up this week, but I've seen some blurbs from it floating around the internet and some photos. There is the official visual dictionary for the Acolytes out now. So
Yep.
I know there was some stuff, Ben, that was relating to the Sith and Donnie.
I see.
I don't know why I said Donnie. The guy that plays the Stranger.
Chimera. Yeah, Chimera. Yeah, there's some stuff with Chimera in them. But I know the big thing that came out of that book for like the hardcore people is basically the infamous scene with Ki-Adi-Mundi where they're talking about all the stuff that's going on. One of the Jedi that are in the room thinks of the word, and they're like, "Oh, maybe it's a Sith," and she was like thinking to herself, "Actually, I better not say that because, people would think I was crazy." So there was that. And then also, Chris, for you and for anybody who's like hardcore Andor fans, a cool detail that came out about it was Venestra's robes were made from Gorman spider silk.
Yeah, I see that.
They confirmed in that book, and I was like, "Oh, that's a cool little, just indirect connection to that."
Yeah, that's neat knowing that planet's industry runs hundreds of years in the past. That's what they're known for. Looking at our main topic of tonight, right? We have the Acolyte Season 2 information. We got a lot of information. So where this came from was from
Ahsoka Season 2, you mean?
Oh, what did I say?
You said Acolyte Season 2.
Oh my gosh, see, I'm willing it into existence.
There's something... I'll say, is there something that we don't?
Subconsciously, nobody at Lucasfilm told me anything. I'm telling you guys. So yes, we have the Season 2 Ahsoka to talk about. We had a panel there at Celebration on that Saturday of the convention, and I'll be honest with you guys, I was really not expecting to get much out of this panel because, as we knew going in, they didn't even film it yet. They were going to film the following week after Celebration, but we did have Rosario Dawson, and then Hayden Christensen comes out on stage, but it's like them and it's Dave Filoni. There's a small stage full of these very prolific creators and actors in Star Wars, which is really neat. And then throughout that hour-long panel, there was a lot of good stuff. And then we even got a little teaser trailer that was super cool because Filoni's like, "Hey, I know I couldn't come with nothing. But we didn't shoot anything. So here's what I did." And he just kind of didn't tell us what it was going to be. And he's like, if you guys know anything about Empire Strikes Back, they also put something out like this before they start shooting. So what it was like a bunch of like, it was a narrator, an epic narrator, like talking about what the season was going to be about with like really good concept art. I'm not sure who the concept art was from, but it was just going over basically like, for like a book, right? You would have your synopsis or your like summary of the basic parts. Like that was what it was about. It was like, okay, you have these galaxy wide conflict here and then another conflict in Peridia, blah 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 blah, and that's where we're gonna kind of dive in detail by detail. So I left that panel saying, "Ooh, I had a good experience up until that point, and now the panel is even better." So I'm pulling also some of this information from some StarWars.com. For instance, the big one here is Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen is returning. So I'll throw it over to Milton. What do you think about this? Anakin Skywalker again. That's the last shot, I think, of season 1. Him there on Peridia looking over the Sabine and Ahsoka.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, this is what we've talked about. I think when I was at the Pittsburgh, the Steel City Con, I mentioned that he was hinting a lot at that Steel City Con about him being in Star Wars for the next, how long. He didn't give a specific time frame, but it never seemed surprising to me that he's not coming back or he would not want to come back. So I'm not surprised by this news. It's beneficial, and obviously it's best for Star Wars. Everybody's loving Hayden Christensen now since the last 4 to 5 years since he made his return to Star Wars. I think looking back on it, and this is what history does. Revisionist history does this. In that actual real time of history, someone may not like something and they may say, "Oh, this is trash" or whatnot. Hayden wasn't a bad part of the prequels. Like looking back on it, he was very much a strength of the prequels. But honestly, I'm not surprised. I think this is a good thing, and I'm happy that he's back. I think that this is best for Star Wars and it's best for this Ahsoka project because we all want to see what he in a live action Ahsoka would interact like.
Yeah, what about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think the big thing with Hayden really, I agree with everything Milton said, but I think all of this, especially with the way season 1 ended, it's just all leading up to this big thing with the Mortis gods and like Mortis and all of this stuff because we see Balin with the god statues and obviously Ahsoka's connection to Mortis as well as Hayden's connection to it as well, or Anakin's connection I should say. So I think that's where a lot of this is heading towards, especially with some of the imagery that we've seen from that trailer or that still shot trailer we seen at Celebration. So I think that's where it's heading toward is like this Mortis level event.
Yeah, so when it comes to season 1, right, we have Anakin in a role of basically teaching. We see him in a hologram, first of all. That was cool enough, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like there's Hayden with the Clone Wars armor, and at that point, that was really revealing and really cool seeing Clone Wars combined with him showing up and having that kind of feel of the actor Matt Lanter's take on Anakin melded with Hayden Christensen's acting. Like, it was really cool what they did there with that. And then that episode 5 came out and everybody lost their mind. Like, that was, I think for most hardcore Star Wars fans, that was their favorite episode of season 1. Right, really getting to see Ahsoka actually interacting. It feels like almost like Rebels, but Clone Wars at the same time with Ahsoka season 1. And then you end up there with him on Peridia, and there's like something to be said about the Mortis gods, and that was another thing that was basically confirmed at the panel. Dave Filoni basically just straight up said like, yeah, those are the Mortis gods for the most part. So jumping off that point, in what capacity would you like to see them use Anakin in season 2? Do you want to see him be like a huge part or like a sidekick or like what level?
Honestly, I'd want to see him like a little bit of both I want to see more live action like flashback with him just to tell that relationship between he and Ahsoka. I think there are stories that we haven't seen before and that I'm sure Dave, well no, it has to be true. I'm sure there's stories that we haven't seen because like 300 episodes of Clone Wars?
Mm-hmm.
So tell some of those untold stories from the animation, put them in the flashbacks, but also tie that into like the current story, kind of like Arrow. Ben, go like they did Arrow. You know what I'm saying? Like there we go. Like that's a successful model.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. Right? Like we've heard rumblings, or at least I've heard rumblings of like, I don't even know how much valid this is, but like somebody said like, oh yeah, Ewan Christensen could even be in this. I'm totally screwing up names apparently. Ewan McGregor could be in this in his Clone Wars armor. Like, who knows? Like, that could happen. I heard there's crazier things said about this season so far that could be happening. Yep. But yeah, I mean, we broke open that door with Star Wars flashbacks. I remember, like, way back in the beginning of the Disney era, it seemed like that was a thing that Lucasfilm never wanted to do. They never wanted to do any kind of flashbacks in their movies or their TV. That was a big no-no. And since a lot of things have come out, that's like actually pretty likely to happen in most things now without much trouble, is having these flashbacks all over the place. So yeah, I mean, we got to think about it as, this is her show, not the Anakin Skywalker show. So what would Anakin need to be there for Ahsoka to learn something, right? Like, we learn about herself in the world between worlds. I would imagine that there's going to be more world between worlds. Yeah.
Well, I'm about to say that's how you use it. So like, look at the Arrow model. And I'm gonna harp on this because they did it perfectly. Anytime Oliver went through some type of like crucible or something he had to learn or some type of specific task, they tied it into they focused it on his story. When they brought in like a Slade Wilson, who's one of the Deathstroke's a great villain of DC. Yes, we wanted to see Slade, but the show and the focus was always about Oliver and what that task was focused on. There were some episodes where they would focus on the side character here or there just so they can get it to where the main character
Mm-hmm.
needs to get to. You can do that with this. There might be some heavier flashbacks where it's focused on Anakin, but that's a point to what Ahsoka's trying to accomplish within that flashback or to get to the present day story task or MacGuffin. So
Yeah.
I think if they utilize that, they know how. I think they can use it correctly to where Anakin won't overshadow Ahsoka. It's already been proven. We
Yeah.
saw him show up in the World Between Worlds. Yes, that episode was awesome, but I never felt that Hayden dominated that particular episode and it overshadowed her because
Mm.
it focused on her journey of okay, we saw young Ahsoka when she was a Padawan, then when she was transitioning to a Jedi
Mm-hmm.
Knight, then eventually saw her where she was at the Siege of Mandalore, and obviously her growth as an adult. Like it never took the focus off of her. Anakin just helped drive. He drove the ship and drove the narrative every time we saw him with her.
Mm-hmm.
They can still utilize that same storytelling tactic.
Yeah, you're right. Would you agree with that, Ben?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's what it's gonna be about. It's kind of gonna be a role reversal of the two characters where Clone Wars, like Anakin was the more of the feature character, him and Obi-Wan, and then Ahsoka was like the sidekick, but still there being important. And now I think it's going to be reversed where Anakin is more like the sidekick, important sidekick type character. And like I said, especially with this Mortis stuff and like even some of the shots we've seen from the trailer with those huge giant hands, whatever those things
Oh
are.
yeah.
Like all of this stuff, I think is just leading to that. And I think it's like they're going to use Anakin in a way where it's going to be a vessel to really explain the Mortis thing to Ahsoka, aka also explaining it to like the audience watching the show. So I think that's where they're going to go with it because I mean Dave even said on the panel like they're going to get crazy with it in the second season with some of the stuff they try. So
yeah, something we've seen instances in Star Wars. This comes back to the Acolyte, actually, of what happens when they might use too many flashbacks. Like, that season had, what was it, 3 flashback episodes? And they could have done away with one of them because it was like the pacing of like, oh, we're getting momentum. Right. Oh, wait, we have to go back. Yeah.
Right. And I think the difference with that is that show, we didn't know any of the characters. And I think it wasn't really earned. It wasn't earned quite yet. I think if the first half was character driven heavy, I think we could have utilized the second half of that series to do flashbacks or even quote unquote or a season 2 if they got a season 2. I think they tried to jump the gun, which didn't help that particular storytelling medium.
Yeah, you're right. That's actually nailing the head on, nailing it on the head there. It's like the idea of we did know these characters, and they felt very hollow and very wooden when the acting came, and the writing was just relatively weak. So it's like, why do we have to keep taking so much time? I don't care about these characters. It's wasting time, and that's what kept going through my head every time we have one of those episodes. But I digress. So, and you had mentioned this, Ben, a few moments ago of the idea of like, oh yeah, there's something different about Peridia. And I even heard Filoni talk about this, how, yeah, we can get away with anything almost because we're dealing in our own vacuum of the galaxy. We're another galaxy. So like nothing happens over here. It can't even affect anything elsewhere in the galaxy, right? So, transitioning now, we know that Mortis gods are involved. It's like, I would like to see maybe Anakin somehow becomes more like, physical, like on the planet somehow to a certain degree, or at least he doesn't look like a transparent Force ghost. He's almost like in a physical state while he's on the planet. If they leave the planet, he disappears. Like there's something mystical. Reading Trials of the Jedi, one of the planets is called a Force Nexus, and there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens on this planet that like bends the laws of physics and everything else. So I'm thinking that perhaps it could be a Force Nexus and allow you to have really cool stuff like that happen. Why not?
Well, I think I think there's credence to it as well. Even everyone knows like Dave's love for George and everything, and in the original version of Return of the Jedi, like Obi-Wan was going to step back out of the netherworld of the Force at the end of Return of the Jedi when him and Yoda and Obi-Wan, like Obi-Wan was going to like step back out of the netherworld of the Force. So like, I could see Dave doing something like that where it's like Anakin getting physically involved, like you said, just because of like the potential there. You can do whatever. Plus, you also have it's just Anakin and like I don't know. I feel like they're gonna go. I truly believe Ahsoka is the show for the hardcore Star Wars fans, or like the fans looking for more of the big, like everyone's wanting like these Thanos level connections and things and yada yada yada, and I think that's the show that we're going to be looking for next year. Like I'm excited for the Mando movie, but I think this is the show we're looking for like the wider scoping details of what we're looking for, whether it be this or heck, we haven't even mentioned like they mentioned on the panel that Thrawn and Akbar are gonna have a showdown. So
that
like
was the
that's
next bullet point. Yep, we're gonna get into it.
Oh yeah, perfect transition right there. But yeah, I think I just think Peridia has a lot of potential and whatnot with Anakin and everybody involved.
Oh yeah, so pertaining to the Thrawn and Akbar showdown, we have a commenter in the chat, Brittany J. Taylor. I hope Dave doesn't kill Thrawn off in his movie. Thrawn needs to give the Chiss one last Hail Mary so we can get Thrawn sucker punching a Grisk. I'm like, I'm so happy that there's a contingent of the fan base out there that still hasn't forgotten about the Grisk. Yuzong Vong are not canonical in Star Wars at this moment of time, but I would say the closest thing you have to a crazy threat in the unknown regions is the Grisk, which are an alien race that really are well with like bending other species to their will. Like they dominate, they basically force servitude to the lesser to the other people that they think of lesser of.
Stand-in for the Vong right now.
Yeah, pretty much. Like even if they've had different kind of weaponry, which is almost organic-esque. They fire these guns that have like these insect creatures that like crystallize and like just explode or something like that. But but yeah, let's dive into it. So Filoni said, they're gonna have that conflict with Peridia, obviously, with the Mortis gods and all. But then in the actual wide galaxy with Ezra, with Hera, he said we're gonna see a lot of Hera. And that's they're doing what they can with the budget with this. He did say like they want to make this a grand battle. Like these aren't like skirmishes. Like this is gonna be as close to cinematic quality as they can get. Like these are gonna be huge fights, and that's great because there's a lot of people out there that were a little bit burned by The Last Jedi, and obviously there's a lot of hubbub about, what happened with Akbar? Just sucked into space and was like a little bit of a thrown in there with a bunch of other names, as somebody that had died.
Yeah.
So this is, Filoni and Favreau and everybody else's chance to like kind of lift up the character a little bit more. I hope we actually get more layers of Akbar. I hope he is like one of the major characters we keep returning to. Let's build up his character. Let's build up the reason why he is the admiral of the entire New Republic fleet and whatnot. But when you heard about this, Ben, what'd you think of the whole idea of, this could actually be a very large scale conflict, more than we're used to with like a series, I think.
Yeah, I mean, first thing I heard when I heard this news, I thought back to my time watching Last Jedi, #Justice for Akbar. Like we they should have done him better. So I think it's cool that they're bringing him into this, and I'm excited for it, and it's cool too because like obviously they're not like adapting the Zahn trilogy beat for beat clearly, but the thing is like Thrawn and Akbar, that was like a rivalry through that Zahn trilogy, the original one from the 90s.
Okay.
So like that's like a beat that they've had for years now, for 30 years now. So like I think that's a cool thing for that aspect, but also just like I mean Thrawn needs an adversary for this thing, and like like you said, why not give Akbar give him his more of, even more of a credence than he got from Return of the Jedi. Like, give him another big battle to go against with Thrawn, and it's going to be interesting. And I'm glad also Ezra's back to being shaved up and looking like he did in Rebels. Like, I do like that they switched back to that look.
Yeah, for me, something that's been missing from Star Wars, and I was really disappointed by The Rise of Skywalker for this one reason, among many, but the idea when they go to the Battle of Exegol, you got all these Star Destroyers, you got a lot of these like smaller size ships, X-Wings and whatnot, but unlike Revenge of the Sith, you don't really see like capital ships doing like broadsides, like you did with the Separatists and the Republic, like Star Destroyers in that opening battle. Like, I wanted to see stuff like that. Like, where was that in Rise of Skywalker? Like, there's literally, like, probably a million ships there, and we don't see any of it. So this has given us that opportunity now to have Home One versus Chimera. And if you guys read the Thrawn books, I don't remember the old ones, but I'm talking about the more recent ones. Some of my favorite stuff about those books is when Thrawn is, like, on the command bridge of a Star Destroyer, and he's just calling out different directions for his like officers at the different stations, like helmsman, turn this way, communications people, like do this thing, weapons platform people do this, and it just like he sets up this cascade of like brilliant tactics, and we don't see any of that in season one. Like, he's just grounded there on the planet, just kind of waiting to get this stupid archaeological stuff that we don't know of loaded onto the ship. Like, it wasn't a great first outing to see this guy in live action if we're used to what he actually is capable of, right? So but I'll throw it over to you, Milton. What are some of your expectations that you would hope to see from Thrawn and a conflict here in space more?
Yeah, I'm honestly, like, the point you made about their lack thereof when it comes to the sequel trilogy of the battles. That's why I love Admiral Radis from Rogue One.
Yeah,
he was doing exactly what when he's like get the Hammerhead Corvette. Like, I love that type of interaction, not only with his people, but also with the fans watching, the audience. I love that. So it'd be nice to see that tactician in live action call out the positions, how to attack, because that's what he's known from the book.
Yeah,
that's why people fell in love with that character. He would sit there and he knew how to manipulate his enemy, how to understand them, how to attack them, how to not attack them. He knew when to not make a move, which was the best move. And so I think, and we got a lot of that in Rebels, which that's what we loved about that character. I can't wait to see this in live action. And honestly, I'm okay with what we got in season 1 of Ahsoka, because I think that was done on purpose to set him up for season 2. Because I think they were waiting to say, hey, this is you know who this character is, you know what he's capable of, but he's kind of been in a position where he hasn't been able to really be himself due to being stranded out in the unknown regions. Just wait, be patient. I think Dave Filoni took the Thrawn route. And in fact, they said, listen, be patient.
No.
Be patient. Once we get to season 2, then you'll see what he's all about. And I think he's going to do a lot of things that's going to be very familiar to us, but also very surprising. We're like, whoa, I didn't see that. That's something new. And I can see them pulling a lot from Legends when it comes to how he is. Things that we probably don't really remember, that's like, oh, this is a nugget from the original Thrawn trilogy books. Yep. So I can't wait to see him fully fleshed out in season 2, because that would be a detriment if we don't really see him at like his best in season 2.
And he needs allies, right? So, and that was the thing, like, this is a large scale war, as they said at the panel. Ben, even though I've seen the trailer, you probably have a better memory of it than I do, because in a convention center with people screaming and everything, it goes in and out. I wish they would have released that for everybody, but like the idea of I would imagine he's got like the Night Sisters fighting with him, and as this other person said about the Grisk or something, like about the Chiss as well. Like, we want to see the Chiss come into play. Like, what happens if he calls in our Admiral Arlani and Eli Vanto from the newer Thrawn books, like, and they come in with their own contingent of Chiss that actually have different technology. Like that's the cool stuff I want to see.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think also a lot of this too. It's just like it's laying the groundwork like the first season, like Milton said, it's kind of like Dave did the Thrawn with Thrawn type of thing. Like there'll be a reason for the stuff that he's doing. Like they didn't just have him do this archaeological dig for no reason and whatever. So it'll be, building up the forces. And for me, honestly, I think all of this really is to build up to Thrawn winning by the end of Ahsoka. So it leads
Oh,
us into the Dave movie, the Filoni movie, because Thrawn's got to end off on a high note in terms of victory because, if he's going to be the presumable villain for that movie,
yeah.
I mean, you can't have the villain walking in with a loss after
Mm.
this season. Like, you have to have him win. So I think it's going to be an Empire Strikes Back-esque thing, like
Yeah.
where the heroes will have their stuff, but the Empire will win. And I think that's what it's going to end up being, and then it'll lead to an Akbar Thrawn skirmish on the big screen.
That's the tough part is like you have this villain that needs to win a lot, but you also have
Yep.
heroes that we're following, so they can't be losing all the time. So it's like, where do you find that happy medium? I was a little bit let down at first with Thrawn and in Ahsoka season 1 because I'm like, oh, this guy's just kind of standing around. He's not imposing as I was expecting him to appear as, and then he actually gets out, and it's like it's always kind of good to see a villain win just outright like that. Like he literally like beat them. He's like, "Yeah, you're a Ronin. You're gonna be stuck here. I'm out of here. See ya." Like to Ahsoka, right? Basically, and now I want to see like a cold open to season 2, where we're getting like reports from the Republic, like, "Oh, Thrawn just took another 2 planets." Like Thrawn has been out. Like let's get like a nice little like year time ahead. I think that would be great. Get a year forward to just be like every good Star Wars story starts in the thick of action. Like pick up with like Thrawn conquering another planet. Like that's the opening sequence, and that sets the tone. And then, like you said, by the end of the season, he somehow does another crushing victory over the New Republic, and that's how you end it. It's like, how do we get it? Just like the Infinity War, where like like you end that movie, and it's like, how is there any hope left when half the entire galaxy is gone? That sort of thing. Like he needs something like that level scale, so people are like, oh, that's the guy from the books. Now I know why people were obsessed with this character for the last 35 years.
Yeah, I think that's where it's heading. I really do. I think it's going to head to that. It's going to head to. I'm sure. I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential directions they could go. I think we're going to get Thrawn for sure making his grand. They'll do some grand, big, galaxy-wide thing announcing Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure whether it be like a thing across the holonet or, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So we have just a couple quick points I want to make about some other details that were confirmed. Rory McCann is in fact taking over the role of Balin Skull, and it was great to see like and hear from the cast about how it was like working with the previous actor there. Stephen, gosh, I forget his last name.
Ray Stevenson.
Ray Stevenson. But it was some really heartfelt moments from Filoni, talking just such great things about Ray Stevenson and the idea of this couldn't be a better fit to fit him. Not only like physically, like they are very close in like their physical prowess and all that with like he's from Game of Thrones. He has a lot of sword fighting experience, but he's also got that same kind of build as well. But then they're actually friends. So the idea that like he's going to honor his friend with picking up where he left off. So I thought that was really cool, especially to hear from the cast like Rosario Dawson, Hayden Christensen, everybody talking really nice things about him, but then also ushering in somebody that's going to try his best to fill his shoes. So I thought that was great. We also got Zeb was in that little trailer. So I know people were constantly calling season 1 Rebel season 5. Well, guess what? This is Rebel season 6, everybody. And they said there's going to be more Hera involved. So it's all around going to be a good time. Whether if we'll see good old Agent Callus,
Yeah.
Good old Agent Cal's maybe he'll make an appearance.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So we're actually going to end it there this week. I do have a time commitment that snuck up on me, so we're going to have a shorter episode this week. But I think we ended up having some really good discussions that we'll definitely have to revisit, because I definitely want to spend a little bit more time next time talking about Thrawn, talking about Anakin and his future in the Star Wars galaxy and shows different things, because there's so much to break down. But those were the big points that came out of Celebration for Ahsoka Season 2. Again, it's filming right now in London, or at least in England somewhere. And the cool thing about that is, hey, when these things are made in England, they usually are pretty good. Look at Andor, for me at least. They're different production. They're not dealing with as many screens. So it's just more real-life locations, which always feels good to see that stuff out there. But Milton, the next time you'll be on here, you'll be a married man. So good luck out there. Have a good time. Try to cherish every second of it, because it'll go by fast that night, I'm sure. But where can the people find you online?
Yeah, they can find me on X at Milton Weber 7 or on Instagram at Milton 7 Weber. I'm excited. Like I said, I appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. I'm excited to go through this process this week. I have to work the first couple days of the week, and then I'm officially doing my bachelor party on Thursday, and then rehearsal done on Friday, and then obviously Saturday is the wedding, and then Monday we travel out or down to Tampa for our honeymoon. So I'm excited to spend time with my family and friends, and build more relationships and just enjoy this time. So thank you guys for watching and listening, and enjoy the rest of your summer.
There we go. And Ben.
Yeah, congrats to Milton and his fiance as well. It's really good time for you both, and it's awesome. We started this podcast, and now we're one of the three are getting married, so it's a cool time for the podcast, and especially for you. But you can find me.
I guess Chris. I think Chris is going to be next.
Chris is going to be next. That's already say that.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah, Chris has got to be the next domino, and then I'll be the last Jedi. Everyone can find me talking Star Wars and fitness and everything else at Real Ben Maynard on X and Instagram.
Yeah, as I said off the top of the show, I have my review for Star Wars Trials of the Jedi, the final book of the High Republic. But as I said in my review, it looks like there's some teases for things to come for future stories. So fun stuff coming from there. Again, if you're already on the channel, we're here at youtube.com/Starrapter. If you want to listen to us on the go, you can just search Outer Rim Transmission on all your podcast apps, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. One public service announcement. We are taking next week off. We're going to enjoy the summer a little bit. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about. So hopefully some good news. But if not, I'm sure I could wrangle up some other topics from Celebration that we haven't talked about, because there was a lot of stuff that came out from there. But until next time, for Milton, for Ben, for Chris, aka Starrapter, that's going to do it for Outer Rim Transmission 201. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you. End transmission.